Let's go over the IBM study that may or may not be folklore and how it relates to accessibility. So, the conclusion of the study was that fixing a bug in production is 100 times more expensive than fixing it during development. So, here's the potential cost breakdown across the four stages of development. We have the requirements and design stage, at which time it's only going to be $100 to fix the bug. When we progress to the development stage, the bug costs $1,500 to fix. When we're in the testing stage, the cost is now $6,500. And then when we reach the production stage, it is now $15,000 to fix that same bug. And on this next slide, I have a bar graph that visualizes this information. So again, at the very beginning, it is a minimal cost. It's only $100 to fix the bug. When we progress to development, it now becomes $1,500. So that's a 15x cost. In testing, it's a 65x cost. And then finally, when we reach production, it's now 150 times the original cost of fixing the bug. So as we move across the graph, we can see that the increase in cost is quite dramatic as we progress to these different stages. So relating the IBM study to digital accessibility, obviously the amount of savings is going to vary based on the digital asset. Also, what stages are involved are going to vary based on the digital asset. And of course, this is because the native mobile apps, software, documents, etc., have varying creation processes. But the point is, if you implement accessibility early on, it's going to save you time and money. There is no downside, it's all upside. This is going to end up being required. So it's money that you'll end up spending anyway. So if you just get it taken care of, you can save money over and over again. So let's go over some examples of how you will lower your costs. Well, let's say if you have software and you make the software accessible in development, so early on, you're going to eliminate a complete audit and remediation project. Another example here is if you have less accessibility issues to fix after an audit. So let's say that your accessibility isn't perfect. There are still some accessibility issues remaining. But if you can take those issues from 140 in count to 25, that's going to be a lot less time and money that goes into accessibility when you're making the fixes. Also, you'll have less need for accessibility services. So you won't need to source out as much work to digital accessibility companies. So let's say you're just sourcing out an ACR versus an audit, remediation, and consulting. There's just less of the third-party services that you'll need. Now, sometimes, like I said with ACR, sometimes you want these issued by an independent third-party provider. But when you take accessibility in-house and your team becomes familiar with accessibility, you'll know exactly what accessibility services you need and which ones you don't. And then this leads to potentially reduced outsourcing scope. So again, your team will know exactly what you need. And this might be, let's say we have a native mobile app and we are looking for an audit. But now we just need to concern ourselves with certain screens that we want audited versus a more comprehensive audit. So here I have 15 screens versus 5 screens. Again, you are saving money because you are taking accessibility more in-house. You have the proficiency, maybe you even have the expertise. And so you're just less reliant on third-party providers. And then the last bullet point I have here is you'll experience lower costs through a reduced legal risk, and you'll be ahead of compliance deadlines. So let's say you are concerned with website accessibility. Well, if you go and you work on accessibility ahead of time, then you're going to significantly decrease your risk of being sued. Also, you'll decrease your risk of being penalized for not being compliant with various laws and regulations. So that's going to significantly bring down your cost. And so when we take an estimated value here, if we have a 95% less chance of being sued over website accessibility, we take our cost from a potential $20,000 of settlement and fixes to the website after the fact, and we bring that down to $1,000 adjusted based on the risk. So how do you reach this point? Well, the obvious way here is training. So you can develop in-house proficiency and expertise. The difference here being proficiency means your team is aware of accessibility, they've learned of accessibility, and then they develop expertise by way of experience and working through accessibility and applying what they've learned to working on your digital assets. So here, the WCAG course and the ADA compliance course can really help you. I will include links to those in the description. Also, collaboration. So if you work with an accessibility agency so that you are taking care of accessibility ahead of time, this can also accelerate the learning curve and then ensure that your digital assets are free of accessibility issues. And then the last slide here is on training. So the WCAG course is my course. It's going to take you through the web content accessibility guidelines and make learning WCAG as simple and as easy as possible. It includes implementation resources and updates to the course. And then the ADA compliance course is my complementary course to the WCAG course, but the focus here is going to be on preventing website accessibility lawsuits. So the course names the highest risk accessibility issues. It tells your team the exact prioritization of the issues and then gives you a blueprint on how to find and fix the issues. So I will link to both of these courses in the description. This can really help you get ahead with website accessibility and digital accessibility in general, and get your team on a path to where you are taking care of accessibility issues before the digital asset is even published. So you get out of the disjointed process of create and then audit and remediate, and you get into where you've got accessibility implemented into your processes so that you are creating more accessible digital assets from a result of the production. And then you're going to have less accessibility issues, and then hopefully no accessibility issues altogether. So I will link to these resources in the description.